Namaste and welcome, beloved mighty companions, to this holy celebration of the light within, infinite light. And happiness that can't be known in this world, that isn't known, and it's impossible to be known in a world where there's a belief in separation or belief that our thoughts are real or have some impact on us. And it just continues to be a blessing to look with Jesus and to look so deeply with him lately with looking at the desire. We're all doing that, looking for desire to deny our divinity. And seeing really how deep, when we go with him in these light circles, we're really starting to get at the things that there's a part of us inside that wants to preserve limitation, that experience of limitation. And we're really going deep, because when you start looking at every belief that's in A Course in Miracles and looking at directly and seeing that it's a desire, this is going to be a quick ride directly to the recognition. Well, we can recognize by looking at the light that's here. We can see that there's something here. We know there's something here if we just look in our hearts, that there's something here that's timeless. And like the question came up in a forum like yesterday, and I asked it myself. It's like, well, okay, we're in the light circles, and we can see that there's something. If we ask the question, is there something here that can die? And we see in the light, no, it's impossible to die. No, you can't die. There's something here that doesn't know time. And yet, still the little wheel turns for the desire to experience something other than timeless, formless being inside. And I feel so blessed to have Jesus, that voice within, giving us such clear direction in how to really look with him in these light circles, to focus on the light of infinite being first, and then look at each thought. And really, that's all it takes. It doesn't even take that, because he says, once you see it all as the same, and that and it's no longer fragmented, you see it's the same thing. It's all the desire not to experience infinite love right now. But in the meantime, someone's asking me about that. And I asked Jesus about that. Okay, I see there's just divine nature here. And I said, and it's still helpful. He says it's helpful for you. So, because I trust that voice to keep looking every day, just as he's requested, and it becomes reinforced through that joy that has no becauses, the no because joy, the joy that just is, like so vast joy, happiness, and just to keep staying with it. And he says, stay with the light circles, stay with them. For me to stay with them, because they're for me. Like I can see they're not. It's because it's the divine instruction here. And then part of that instruction, okay, so seemingly play this out as a form of extension of divinity, as a form of function. But yet everyone who's here is in function, because our only function is to see that we're divine beings. So no one here actually has a different function. Everyone has the same function, which is to focus on the light within, to see that there isn't anything other than the light within. So I was asking Jesus today again about about expression, expression sessions, and he's continually using expression sessions, light circles, whatever the ways are that we start to see the mechanisms of the way and the means by which our true identity is denied. And as always, whenever he talks about this here, he's always pointing back, as he does in Course in Miracles, is the willingness. You can stand on your head and talk to three, If the willingness is there, see what's true, you can see it standing on your head. We can see it just by sitting in the light circle here, that there's something infinite. But the undoing of that desire, he's saying that's where the speed is. Like, if you're going to express and say, I feel really mad right now, it's like, I feel mad and I do not want to feel like a divine being, because that's really that's the truth. Like, that's the truth of God. I do not want to have an experience of being divine. That's really what the truth is, because that's what he says. Truth of God is saying, I do not want to experience divine being. I thought, well, that's a whole new way of expressing. Or, yeah, it's like, it's really seeing the demand that God fulfills something that he cannot fulfill, which is to make us anything less than we are. So it's helpful for me to look with him on these topics, so then and reinforce them for myself, to see any areas remaining where I'm saying no to myself, no to the self, that it becomes so reinforced as these beliefs fall away and the desires, it becomes so reinforced by joy, by infinite joy, that just like now there's just nothing else. It just isn't, you see that nothing of this world matters other than that great love, that infinite love. And I was also thinking that about how, I would say for the last 4 years, up until about a year ago, not too long ago, the big plan was I really wanted to like hoard all the money I had, sort of, and go buy a 1-bedroom, like a little tiny house, and live in the woods with my brother, at my brother's house, because then I would quote unquote be safe. It's certain, and that was my plan. The plan, or my plan, which obviously hasn't worked out so well as I thought, but I can see that it's so much of a happier plan, listening and following to Jesus. Even if there can be moments that might arise on whatever's happening at the devotional center, but you just know at some point that it's all for God. It's all because this world isn't, it's not worth the investment in saying no to God. So as we focus on the light, and he's saying, really trust these light circles. Trust what he's given us, and that he is delivering us a really fast way if we stay with it and keep looking at keep looking at these denials directly, and see how each belief, and look directly at each belief as the light of truth, and see whether that belief is where, as the light, because we can see we're light, we see there's nothing that can die, and as the light, look at the belief, see if the belief exists in the light of truth. And then we can see how quickly it just, the Holy Spirit zapper, the great thought adjuster, as they say in a book of Arantia, the thought adjuster comes in and adjusts that thought so that there's no like zero charge. So that's why then we check in with Jesus on the thought to say, okay, Jesus, do I still have, is there anything under that I need to see? And then let that arise into awareness. And then he shows us, okay, now what's under that thought? Or is there anything left? So that we're using the power of our divine nature, the reminder of that, to go right to the root of the denial, that the light is always here. And to see how quickly the correction occurs just by going there immediately. Do not pass go directly to the light because we can, because we are the light. So anyway, those were the thoughts that were coming and felt to come through. Love and gratitude to all of you and to Jesus. And we started chapter 18, so I thought it would read a little bit more on trust here. No one can awaken from this world without full trust, meaning trust can't be partial, because the ego likes partial trust. I know, it gets so funny. When you see how true this things that Jesus says, it's really funny. For trusting is siding with a sense of limitation and lack, untrusting or partial trusting. It has to be full and complete because we're full and complete. Untrusting is an agreement, a desired experience that something or someone is untrustable and that thus unworthy of our trust. And since it always points back to ourselves, that's meaning we do not trust ourselves. So we desire an experience where we do not trust, which means we do not trust God, which means because there's only one, we're not trusting ourselves. And the speed is always to take it back to ourselves, to our own mind. If trust or distrust or dislike or not wanting or wanting, and just seeing where the source is for that. And we have already discussed that unworthiness is not of the Father. And we know from looking, does divine being know what unworthiness is? The light. Doesn't know that. In our direct experience, as we look as the light. And just see the immediacy that that voice from within answers when we ask. That's how fast the correction is, actually. The same voice that comes immediately when we say, does the light within know unworthiness? The same voice that says no immediately, which is our true voice. That's the same speed as the correction on anything. That's how quickly things can be seen with the light of truth. Not trusting is merely the desire to experience lack within yourself. Jesus, will you show me that not trusting is merely the desire to experience lack within myself? And feel the answer inside. Is there any desire within the subconscious mind for me to feel a lack of experience, lack of trust? I'm willing to see it. Lack of trust of myself. Yeah, we can all hear Jesus. What he's saying here is, when you do not trust me, Jesus, you're not trusting yourself because I am yourself. Because I'm the same as you. I'm just the voice that helps you remember that you're calling yourself out of the world. Not trusting is merely the desire to experience lack within yourself, An attempt to convince yourself that you are less than you are, perfect as the Father made you. So let's experience this directly. Jesus, will you show us in the light of divine being is not trusting a desire to experience lack within myself. And here, hit the answer. An attempt to convince yourself that you are less than what you are is lack of trust, an attempt to convince myself that I'm less than I am. And hear the answer from the light of truth. This is why trusting in me is to trust in yourself as God made you. Yesterday, we talked about this part of this book. It seems like a step, yet it is acceptance of your holiness right now. Trust is an acceptance of holiness right now. Full trust. It can't be toe-dipping trust. I'm just going to give a little, although that's still some trust when we're starting out with no trust in ourselves whatsoever. There's that little bit, a little bit of movement. We're still loved by God no matter what. But we're oh my gosh, oh God. He's saying you're just giving so little to yourself in this. You're giving so very, very little of everything you've given, It's like trying to take this it is. Here's this massive power of everything and then squeezing it down to like a little constricted pipe where nothing to get through. And we're doing it, we're constricting a pipe and going, I don't know what happened. I lost power, and then we're feeling tired and anxious, but we tied the rope. We have to look down at the ants that tied the rope around the pipe, to cut off all the power. And that's where it kind of gets funny. It's like, oh my God, my hand, I did it. Who's the one who said no to this infinite power coming through? And that's when it's so speedy. That's the speedy version. Just like, this is why trusting in me is trusting yourself as God made you. Your brother is the representative of your mind. He's pointing back to look at the brother again. We looked at this yesterday. He like points till the lesson is gotten. And really how trust in a brother is not pointing to the brother, The brother is completely trustable because the brother is of God just like we are. But it helps point through the grace of my beloved. I can see. It's not personal. But, it helps me see where I'm not trusting myself. The self, infinite self. Where I'm putting a constriction on the pipe of everything the Father has given me, and I'm seeing that like any kind of, because the whole point of this is to flush up all those pipe constrictions and go, wait a minute, I'm holding the pipe on myself. Let me drop that pipe, let me drop the constriction. But, you find yourself, gets to be the humor, but you find yourself, I feel terrible, but I really want to keep my hand holding this pipe tight. I want it. But even that's what Jesus is saying, like, just admit Even though I feel like hell right now, because I feel sick and tired and everything, I still want to really hold my hand on that pipe and grip it as tightly as possible, even though I know I'm doing it. But he's saying there's even power in that, because at least we're admitting it. We're just saying, I really want it. Like, I really want to constrict this pipe. But we see whose hand's on the pipe and who's deciding to constrict it. And just admitting it. Okay, I admit I do not want to release this pipe. I do not want to release this grip I have that I've self-imposed on myself. And then it kind of gets funny at that point, because you realize, it's not outside of ourselves. Thank you, Jesus. But that's it. Jesus is not coming in to pry our fingers from the pipe. Divine nature does that. Waits until we really get tired, our hand gets weary of holding on to the pipe and squeezing it. And you just, love is still, it still flows. It's just it's actually a dream that there's a pipe with a hand on it, actually. But because of the power and consciousness to focus on all the pain that comes from gripping the pipe, and then pretending like we're not gripping the pipe. That's the other part of the play in consciousness. The world hiding the fact that we're the ones that are squeezing the pipe. But at least we're waking up to see, okay, I have another choice. I can just let go of the pipe. I don't have to grip it, but I want to grip it. And that's why I spend lots of time with Jesus, like, okay, show me the energy where I want, and I just like sit with it. Like, I want this, I want it. I just let myself totally feel the wanting of it, and let that just be. Because the funny thing is, the things we say we don't want, we really want. Like, I don't want to be mad, or I'm really mad. And then you start looking at it closely, at least the experience here, and I could see, oh man, I really want that. You just kind of see below the cloak, that it's really desired experience. Your brother is the means given by which you recognize your holiness, or the desire to deny it. Boy, it just makes me put my head on my brother's feet a lot. You see how that deep gift is given of the brother, to see the denials. And then you're just so grateful. Sometimes you don't feel grateful. But it's like, I don't want to be grateful. I remember thinking that. I do not want to be grateful for whatever that brother's doing right now. Get rid of them. Yeah, they're speaking over here. I know. I mean, that's right. Get rid of that brother. Kill him. Well, it's true if you really start looking deep, right? I mean, I just admit that. I said that in community one time, but I saw the thought. It's like Jesus said, we really do want to kill our brother deep down. We do. So we might as well admit it. No toe dipping. We're going all the way to just look at the truth. Get rid of them. Kill off another body. Oh my gosh, we're funny. Thus full faith in your brother is necessary, as faith in me is necessary, as this is trusting yourself. Divinity as it is given in wholeness from the Father. This is why it is necessary to look carefully at the desire to not see your brother fully as yourself. I know he's bringing this up. How strong, really being present with the desire. Let's see, Jesus, is there any energy around not wanting to see my brother as myself? I'm willing to look. It's like, give me anything, but do not let my brother be myself. Let me see. And like, if we pull the covers off of that in the light of divine being, does the light of divine being know, find anything outside of itself? In our experience, like, we can't find this in the light of being. So like, take that thought. Well, that's a good one to put in the light. I want to kill my brother. Put that in the light and see what the light does with that thought. That's a good one to look with the light, because I can see where there was like a denial. Oh, I don't want to kill my brother, until I went into community, and then I knew. Until you live in community, the bunch of beings, and you have this thing they call lead follow, where you're seemingly being told what to do. But it does bring up all the authority problem. Like, you can see it. You can see, I'm so angry right now. How does that happening? Because we desire to see that there's a desire for anger that denies our divine nature, and our brother helps us to see it when we're in community. Is there any desire not to see my brother fully as myself? And just keep looking on that one with Jesus. That's so helpful until he goes, no, Is there any bones buried there, Jesus? Any, because he won't let us go sideways on these. This is why it's necessary to look carefully at the desire to not see your brother fully as yourself. When you do see the desire, you will see that you do indeed reject him, and that this is the desired experience of rejecting yourself. This is such a kingpin to see. So it feels good to be with Jesus on that one. Reject him. You will see that you do indeed reject him, and that this is the desired experience of rejecting myself, or yourself, denying the peace of heaven from yourself now. So is there any desired experience of rejecting myself through rejecting my brother? And that's why it's so beautiful in the Course, where you notice Jesus says, okay, think of someone that you don't like, or, that we're constantly searching our minds for examples and places in our minds where we're withholding love from ourselves through a brother. Acceptance is of great value in the reversal of the desire to deny yourself. Infinite love in the absolute sense does not know acceptance or rejection, because it is. And thus you in your natural state do not know acceptance either. Does the light of infinite being know what acceptance is? Or rejection? We can see it just is. It's that isness. It just is. And thus you in your natural state do not know acceptance either. So in one sense, he says acceptance is of great value in the reversal, but you don't know what acceptance is. But within the dream, it's helpful to learn what true acceptance is. Acceptance of divinity. Does the light have to accept its divinity? Again, it just is. In our experience, it doesn't. But within where there's so many energetics, investments, and denials, here's Jesus is offering us a really beautiful thing with acceptance. I have used the words accept, and the ego rejects only to point you toward yourself. I can assure you the divinity knows neither acceptance nor rejection. It is what is. The wrong mind miscreates the world through rejection of holiness. Thus, a reversal is offered through the term acceptance to point back to the real world, ultimate reality of what is. Through acceptance is a means of recognizing and honoring what is already here. So accepting that we are denying divinity. That's the honesty of God. The ego interprets acceptance as accepting things as less than they are, a sad sacrifice. The idea that suffering must be accepted, emotions must be accepted, pain and guilt must be accepted. This form of acceptance has nothing to do with with you as divine being. You know, there's a lot of talk about you have to accept. He's really pointing to very subtle difference. And what we're really accepting is that we're denying divinity. This is rejecting divine grace under the disguise of acceptance. This is accepting less than who you are and thus rejection of divine being. How can this bring peace of mind? You know, another tragic incident's going to come and I'm just going to accept it. It's not to reject any emotion that comes. He's pointing, see through it. See the desire for it. See that it cannot change the light. See that in the light it can be instantly dispelled because it's desired experience. We desire it, we can dispel it. Powerful beings that we are. This is not integrity that is given by love through the Holy Spirit. Integrity of spirit is to see what is true, that these movements are not to be accepted as what is happening. Meaning not to accept them through the filter of the ego. Integrity of spirit is to see what is true, that these movements are not to be accepted as what is happening. They are to be seen as false, untrue in the light of divine being. That divinity doesn't actually recognize them. Does divinity recognize an emotion? It doesn't judge an emotion. But does the light of divine being recognize what an emotion is? Yeah, a lot of times, you know, I can hear it. You know, it's God's will that this happen, that, you know, I'm just living in God's will and with these things. And it's really seeing that they're the way of divinity is to see that it's not true. That's honesty of God, to see that they're not true. This is the means by which you accept, honor your power as divine being is given in holiness by the Father. This is acceptance and honesty of God, and honesty of truth, in alignment with God's plan, God's holy plan for holiness, in the discernment of the true from the untrue, and that all things, all movements can be taken to the light of the divine being to see what's true. That's acceptance of divinity. True acceptance is accepting who you are and accepting that if you are not perfectly at peace, then you are misusing creative power to have an experience that is not peace. This is honesty of God. Honesty that honors your Father and thus yourself, all that is given by love to celebrate love as it is, whole and complete. Acceptance of God is to cease to deny yourself as love. This is trusting that the idea you have of yourself is unreal. This is trusting that the idea you have of yourself is unreal and does not exist. The recognition that the play of feeling limited and weak has no value to you. Trusting in this manner is to release yourself from the self-imposed chains that do not exist. To see in reality you do not want them. To see in reality we no longer want to constrict the pipe with our own hand. All the power given by the Father, that dream that a pipe can be restricted. This is the means to step beyond trust to all the power God has given you as His Holy Son. So He's pointing beyond trust even now, to see what does not need trust. To see that what is, the light that we're coming together to see, doesn't know, it doesn't know trust. And that the trust is trust is actually within the dream of separation, but it is a movement that's pointing toward divinity. Because the ego is the structure of lack of trust. Its whole structure is not to trust. Because not to trust is to create something that's not trustable, which is the other, something other than ourselves not to trust. So it's immediate, untrusting is immediate spin out into duality. Jesus, will you show me any places in my mind where I've decided not to trust myself? Or trust in you? Or trust in my brother? Or trust in God? Amen. Thank you, beloveds.